This is how I fixed the 2023 Avengers Tower Lego set, and you can too. The first order of business was to actually buy the thing, so on Black Friday, I woke up bright and early and went to the mall, and luckily enough, I was able to snag one of these bad boys. It also came with a whopping 4 gifts with purchase, which we'll take a look at in a little bit. When I got home, I immediately started building this monster of a set. It's the biggest Lego set I've ever built, with nearly 40 bags, over 5,000 pieces, 30 minifigures, and clocking in at almost 20 pounds. The actual building process took several hours, and I did it over the course of 2 days, and then when it was done, it ended up being taller than my life. As I mentioned before, there are around 30 figures in the set, which are Tony Stark, Thor, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Iron Man, Wasp, Wanda, Falcon, Vision, War Machine, Pepper Potts, Wong, Nick Fury, Helen Cho, Hulk, Selvig, Pierce, Kevin Feige, Ultron, Loki, 4 Chitauri, 3 S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, 2 Captain Americas, and an Ant-Man in a pear tree. Now, some of these characters are obviously really good, however, some of them are in some serious need of improvement. The first of which is Captain America, specifically his legs, which are completely lacking in detail. I have a few ideas on how you could fix this, the first being to use the legs from Spider-Man, specifically the ones from the Final Battle set, since there are 2 of them and the colors match pretty well. My other idea was to use the legs from Captain Carter, however, I will not be doing this because I think they work much better for our next figure, Thor Odinson. In addition to this, I think that the Old Man Luke hair works much better than the Mad Eye Moody hair, so let's add that as well. The Iron Man and Tony Stark figures are all pretty good in my opinion, and so is the Black Widow figure. However, the Hawkeye figure has a pretty simplistic face, so I decided to swap it out for the one from the CMF. Rounding out the OG Avengers team is Hulk, who utilizes some new molds so that he can move his head, which is really neat, but the only unfortunate thing is that no Bruce Banner figure was included. Luckily, this can be easily remedied by just adding the one from the Hulkbuster set that I fixed earlier this year. As for the rest of the Avengers crew included in this set, Rhodey, Vision, Nick Fury, and Sam all look great, however, Wanda is severely lacking in leg printing, so I went ahead and swapped out her legs for the ones from the Age of Ultron set. The Wasp figure also has 0 leg printing, so I decided to swap out her legs for the ones from this Thanos minifigure. A lot of other figures also don't have leg printing, such as Eric Selvig, Helen Cho, Pepper Potts, and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, but honestly, I don't have much of an issue with that, so I think they can just stay like this. However, a figure that really could have used some extra printing is Wong, who didn't have any details on his arms or legs, so I swapped him out for the one from the Marvel Bricktober pack. Now let's take a look at the villains LEGO decided to include, starting off with Loki. It's the same one as the one from the Quinjet in January, and it unfortunately has the exact same problem, his scepter. So once again, I gave him this new and improved version, which has the right colors and even includes an Infinity Stone at the tip. He also has 4 Chitauri soldiers with him, which are simple, but they kinda have to be, so I think that's fine. We also have our first ever Alexander Pierce figure, which is pretty cool, and finally the last character is Ultron, and for this one I decided to order the head off of the original figure from Bricklink, as I think the transparent piece works a lot better than the dark blue one. Speaking of Bricklink, I actually ordered a ton of pieces off of there before I even got the set, so without further ado, let's take a look at the figures that I think LEGO should have included. Starting off with the most obvious one that everyone was hoping for, Quicksilver. Funnily enough, it was actually like $15 cheaper to order all the pieces individually rather than the entire figure from one place, so I did that, and I just got the official figure, which I think looks good, but hopefully he'll get an upgrade and a set in the future. On the topic of Age of Ultron figures, I also ordered a couple of Ultron Sentries and even a figure of Ultron Prime to add to the Ultron army, and then I got 2 Iron Legion figures to help fend them off. Going back to the first Avengers movie for a second, I ordered several more Chitauri figures, the reason being that I've been planning to make this video for a while now, and earlier this year the leakers were saying that the set would be more Age of Ultron based, meaning more Ultron figures and no Chitauri army, so I even went as far as to start designing a Leviathan on Mecha Bricks, but oh well, when it comes to an army, the more the merrier I suppose, so you can never have too many Chitauri. Anyway, other than the Chitauri, I also got Coulson and Maria Hill from Avengers, which I think helps to fill out Nick Fury's S.H.I.E.L.D. entourage. Speaking of S.H.I.E.L.D., we all know by now that Alexander Pierce was actually working for Hydra, so I think it would be cool to add a few more of the guys that we found out are double agents in the Winter Soldier. Starting off with Sitwell, I just used a basic suit and tie torso and the head from Ian Malcolm, and then I added Crossbones, aka Brock Rumlow, and for him I used the Crossbones torso and the face from the Punisher, those legs from Black Widow and Infinity War, and the same hairpiece as Tony Stark. Finally, while we're doing figures from the Winter Soldier, which weirdly enough I don't think has ever gotten any actual sets, I went ahead and added Bucky Barnes, swapping out his legs for some more detailed ones, as well as Sharon Carter, who we can go ahead and put with all the other members of S.H.I.E.L.D. on the first floor. One of the movies that Avengers Tower was most prominently featured in was actually Spider-Man Homecoming, yet it seemingly got no mention in this set. So the first figure from this movie that I think should have been included is Happy Hogan. Honestly, he doesn't even have to be from this movie. I just thought an updated version of this guy would have been a no-brainer to include in this set, considering his close personal connection to Tony Stark. Next is obviously Spider-Man, and you can either do his Stark suit to match the movie poster, or you could make the homemade suit, which is an outfit that a lot of us fans have wanted for years, and this would be the perfect place to put it for the first time. He also needs someone to fight, so I bought the No Way Home Vulture set and built up the Vulture and his giant wingsuit, then added all three of these guys to the landing pad at the top of the tower to recreate the climax of the movie. Alright, I have a couple more figures I'd like to add, but by now the set will be getting a bit crowded, and that's where the gift with purchase comes in. As you may remember, early in the video I mentioned getting 4 of these, and by the way, this one's my favorite, but the only one that we're really going to be looking at in this video is the taxi, which is the one that you got if you bought the tower on Black Friday weekend, and to be honest, I hate it. So here's what I would have done instead. First off, I would have made the taxi build the same as the one from the Daily Bugle, because that way it would look consistent when you display all the modulars next to each other, and I know LEGO doesn't have any problem with recycling vehicle builds because they do it all the time. Next are the figures, which make no sense at all. The taxi driver at least fits with the build, but the other 3, to my knowledge, Black Panther and the Outriders have never been to New York, so this is just ridiculous. So here's who I would have included instead. First, I would swap out the Outriders for Chitauri, or at the very least Ultron Sentries, and then next I would have swapped out T'Challa for Ant-Man since he was in Endgame and at the tower, and we haven't gotten a figure of him in quite a while. Finally, the figure everyone was hoping to get from the set, Stan Lee. After the Daily Bugle, this would have been the perfect place to include him, and yet he still didn't even get a reference. So to fix this problem, all you have to do is get a gray Widow's Peak hairpiece, the head from Alfred in the second Batman CMF, and this torso with a tan jacket, and then some basic legs, and there you have it, a purist custom LEGO Stan Lee. Now let's move on to the build, and I don't have as many changes to make in the build as I did for the figures, but that's really just a testament to how good of a job the designers did with this set. It looks just like the real thing, and has tons of Easter eggs and details that really elevate the set to the next level. That being said, the set isn't perfect, and there are still a few simple things that can be pretty easily changed, the first being the Quinjet, which is based off of the S.H.I.E.L.D. design rather than the Avengers one. However, if you bought the Quinjet from earlier this year and still have the stickers like I do, then you can pretty easily put them on the Quinjet included in this set. That being said, I'm going to leave mine how it is because I don't really want to ruin the stickers, but feel free to do this if you want. The next thing I did was make this small build on a 16x8 base plate, which perfectly lined up with the right side of the tower. All you need to do is make a 16 stud wide and 8 plate tall ledge, then surround it with a 2 stud deep and 4 plate tall ledge, and surround it all with dark gray plates and tiles and light gray ones at the front to match the modular style sidewalk. You also need to make sure to include the Technic pieces to connect it, and there you have it. This gives you some extra room for your figures and provides some space between buildings if you wanted to display this next to, for example, the Daily Bugle, which would not be possible before due to the landing pad. Lastly, if you want to literally fix the set by repairing the window, all you have to do is take these pieces off and place the 2 windows back in their place. So here's what the set looks like with all the changes in place, and here's what it looks like next to the other 2 Marvel modulars. I think it looks great, and I would definitely recommend it. Anyway, if you liked today's video, then make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Have a great day, and go build something awesome.